Welcome to the Beginner's Room with me today, everyone. Whether you're joining me on YouTube or you're joining in the Beginner's Room of XM Live. Today we are looking at the art of buying and selling. So we basically will be looking at what it takes to buy and sell. We will look at how to analyze the market on your own to start trading in the market, and we'll do some analysis. We'll also take time to look at the economic calendar and see what we have for the week, so that helps us to plan ahead. It's usually a good thing to have clarity as to how you're going to be trading the market for the week. So if you tune in with me, please be sure to use the chat box. Ask your questions. If you have a question as to a particular trade, you're trading something, or you've seen a setup that you want us to look at together, the chat box is open and we are here ready to take a look at it with you. All right. So let me bring the economic calendar. Let's start from there so that we can go on and look at how to analyze the market during the week. So we'll start with the economic calendar. Okay, so looking at the economic calendar, you'd see a filtered for high impact because I want to look mainly at the ones that would have some level of impact on the market and then use that to plan ahead for how I'll be trading the market. This is Monday, and for what is left for today, we have unemployment reports, unemployment rates for Greece and industrial production from Mexico. This ones, I really don't trade them like one currency at a time. I prefer to trade mainly the euro. So let's move on to the ones that I look at in the market. For this is now business confidence for Australia. And for Australia, yes, I trade that. So that's something I'll focus on. And then again, tomorrow morning, we also have interest rate decision for Australia. Okay. RBA interest rate decision. It is expected that there's going to be a rate cut from 3.85% to 3.6%. That's 25 basis point rate cut. That's something we are looking forward to from that zone. And, that is also high impact, usually would have some level of impact on Australian dollar. We saw that in the last report for Australian dollar, there was an expectation of a rates cut, but the rate cut didn't happen, and that gave some boost to the strength of Australian dollar. It started to move up strongly. So at this time we can look at it to see what will happen, how the price is going to move from here, whether we would see some level of strength or maybe weakness. If the rate is actually, they do go ahead to cut the rate the way it's been said here, will that affect the markets? What kind of impact can it have? And how do I prepare ahead for that? That's quite important, preparing yourself ahead for how the market can move within the week. And that's why I like to start by looking at the economic calendar as well. And then we have unemployment rates and employment report for UK. Employment change, basically employment report for the UK also tomorrow. Turkey, we have retail sales. For South Africa, we have unemployment reports as well. And then we have for the US core inflation rates, general inflation reports. We're expecting inflation report, and that's also, you usually would have some level of impact on the US dollar. And of course, the US dollar being the most traded currency in the market, there can also be a lot of impact on the other currency. So yes, this is something I like to pay attention to within the week as well. And that's coming up tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, what do we have? We have some news on Japan, the PPI month over month and year over month. Year over year for Japan. That is also expected tomorrow morning. What else do we have? We have retail sales for South Africa For those who trade that, I hardly trade it, but once in a while I look at it as well. Employment report for Australia. Which one again? Then for the UK, we have GDP report. GDP report is also of high impact, so that's another thing to pay attention to. So all of these employment reports, PPI, GDP, we also have interest rates. So the market is packed. Actually, the week is packed with a lot of activities, so much to look forward to in the week, and also to help us plan ahead as to how we are going to be trading the market within the week. So retail sales, all of them are there for the US on Friday, retail sales. So all of this, we expect to have some impact on the market. So this is something that I love to look at on Monday morning like this. Yes, of course, I still consider them to remind myself during the day, or if I have it maybe somewhere within the week written out, I know the ones I really want to focus my attention on. I will look at them within the week before trading the market. Now, when it comes to trading, like the topic of today, we are looking at the art of buying and selling. So what does it involve? For me to buy and sell in the market, I must learn to analyze the market. And there are different ways for analyzing the market. This was what we looked at in the week. Last week, we looked at fundamental analysis, technical and sentimental analysis. These are different ways that you can consider analyzing the market. Now, majority of the time, I look at technical, but of course, we discussed that day that it's a good thing if you can combine. So you would see, I started by looking at the economic calendar because I want to have an idea of fundamentals. How is what's happening in this economy going to affect the market? What kind of impact can it have on the price? If I can have such idea and I prepare my trade based on that, what I am doing is basically fundamental analysis. So yes, what we've done this morning is looking more at the economic calendar just to have an idea, the news we have within the week, the timing of the news, what kind of news they have, the level of impact. We've seen all of that just now with the XM economic calendar, which is a well-packed economic calendar, actually. You can use it to analyze what has happened in the past. You can go to it and click on the impact, see the level of impact. So let's use this as example. So I can go to charts and then I click on impact. I can see how the particular news, what kind of impact it had in the market in the previous time we had this report. I can go on, check the months before and several months in the past, more like a back test of how the particular news usually impact the market. That can be a place to start your fundamental analysis to see how that news is going to have impact on the particular market that you're trading. You can start this way, and then you can go further ahead by doing research on what GDP, for instance, what GDP is, what it stands for, what kind of impact does it have on an economy, and how that relates to the forex market. How can they affect the currency of that economy? Because every currency we trade in the market belongs to an economy. For instance, I have opened now the chart of GBP, JPY. So I'm looking at what's happening in the UK, what's happening in Japan. And if I analyze this way, I look into what we have, for this week, for instance, and I start to look at the fact that we have GDP report, we have some employment report for the UK, and then for yen, there is retail sales and so on and so forth. I want to understand what kind of impact do these things have on the particular instrument or on the country's currency. And once I understand that, I start to look at, okay, what circumstances surrounding this particular currency at this time and the other currency I'm trading it with, because we know that the currencies are traded in pairs, right? So you are not trading just one in isolation. So what's happening with the other one and what kind of impact can all of this news have on these two currencies that would affect this pair, that would affect the way I'll trade this pair. When I do that, what I am doing is basically fundamental. And then when I come to technical analysis, what are some things I want to look out for that will help me to trade the markets well? what are some rules I want to have in place? What do I look out for? I open up my chart. I am trying to analyze the market. When do I know? How do I know when to buy and when to sell? So I'm going to bring out a slide as well that can guide us in this regard. All right. So I'm asking myself when to buy or sell. Um, what do I consider before I buy, sell, or hold? Right? Do I want to hold on to the trade I have, or do I want to, in fact, hold and not take any trade for now until it is ready? I should be able to do that, have that idea based on what I have set in for myself as regard when I want to enter a trade or when I want to exit a trade. So it's quite important to have something that will guide you, have rules in place that would serve as guide when it comes to whether you want to enter a trade or you want to exit a trade. Okay. So the first thing I'll analyze after looking at fundamentals and then I open up my chart, first thing I'll analyze is the trend. I want to understand what direction the market is going. And to do this effectively, I'm going to consider multiple time frames. So I'll do multi-time frame analysis. I want to know, is the market trending? If it is trending, is it uptrend? Is it the downtrend? In a trending market, I want to apply strategies that help me trade market that is trending. If, on the other hand, I see a consolidating market, there isn't a clear direction. The market is giving, say, equal high, equal low, showing that the market doesn't have a clear direction. What do I want to do? Either I wait for the breakout or I find a way to trade within the range. I have a strategy for trading the ranging market where if I see the ranging market on higher time frame, I go to lower time frame to go find my trade idea. So that may be what I consider before I go ahead to find an entry. All right. And what does that mean? So this is GBP JPY. If I want to analyze this particular instrument, this is daily time frame. For me, I like to start with weekly, sometimes in fact monthly. I want to have an idea what the major direction of the market is. And from this monthly time frame, I can see that we've been in an uptrending market. There's a pullback, and after the pullback, the market began to range. And after ranging for a while, it's kind of pushed up. The last month's candle closed slightly above the resistance, or at least above where the body of the candles have been closing in the recent time. So the candle closed higher there. What do I want to see this time? That, even if there's going to be a pullback, it continues to the upside. And then I look at it on the weekly. Last week I'd closed with an engulfing bullish candle, which is also still supporting bullishness. Before that last week candle, where did the price come from? We had a double bottom. So there was this pattern here, a double bottom pattern. Let's pull this there. So we had the price formed this double bottom, and since then it has pushed up, corrected last week, then seems to continue this. However, the current week doesn't seem to have done much. Today, anyway, the week is just starting, but it's not doing much. It looks like we might have a little bit of pullback again, and then the price continues. But what's my overall bias here? From both the monthly and the weekly, I still have idea of an uptrending market. And then on the daily, it obviously still, it's still an uptrend on the daily, even though we have this big bearish candle that still seem to be serving as the mother bar here. The price still seems to be within the range of that candle. So if it is able to break it to the upper side, that can be a better indication that the bulls are ready to continue all the way up. Looking at it on the 4-hour now, which is where I like to find my entry or to look at my setup. What setup will I find here that can support the bullishness I'm seeing from the other time frame? Here I see we also had a double bottom when it pushed down like that. And then it has since then been in an uptrending market. Now I'm expecting a pullback, might be a deeper pullback. And then It might also be ABC correction, and then the price continue up again. So if I'm looking at a short-term trade, I might join the seller since I'm expecting that the price will pull down, make a pullback from this 4 hour time frame. If I'm expecting the price to pull back, even if it's just to this area, I might go to lower time frame and find something there. Because on the 1 hour now, we have like a double top and the last candle an engulfing bearish. So price is moving up now. I might just say a close below this area